In this video, I want to introduce you to a few more tools in Google Scholar. So let's keep going with our paper on elite hiring and gender. And first of all, if you're in legal studies and you want case law, you can search for that. But for most of us, we want scholarly articles. And here's our list of resources. Now, I want to cover the stuff here underneath each resource. You'll notice the first thing is a star. And if you click that star, it gets bold. And what it does is it puts this resource into your library. And as long as you're logged in, this library will be saved. You can come back to it later. I'll go into more detail about the library in a later video, but this is handy if when you're looking through the list, you feel like you're kind of overwhelmed with the amount of resources available and you decide, okay, I'm just going to click the ones that look the most relevant, the most interesting, and then you can come back to them later in your library if you'd like. And of course, you can just as easily deselect them and they disappear. Next to that is this citation button. So you'll see this list of different ways that you can cite that resource in the references, depending on the style that you're required to cite in. Most social science majors will be using APA or American Psychological Association style. If you're a Soc major, you may want ASA, but you'll notice it's not on the list. And I will have a later video on ASA and APA citation. So you would just copy that and paste it. If you happen to have one of these 4 software programs to handle your references and citations, you simply click the button and it'll download into that program. After that is the cited by tool. And this has a couple of purposes. One, it's a real handy way of determining how popular an article is. So if the more times it's been cited, the more it's something that maybe you should consider citing as well, right? This article was cited 414 times. Compared to this article from the same year, it was cited 45 times. Not to say that this is a bad article, but the one up here certainly got a lot more traction and a lot more citations. Once we click it, here's all 414 things that cited it. And they may be relevant to your lit review as well. They may be things you want to add. And keep in mind, logically, they're all going to be a little bit newer than the item that you were previously on, simply because something newer is required to cite something older. Time moves forward. Next to that, what I think is probably the most helpful feature in all of Google Scholar is this related articles button. So you click, say we like this article, we click related articles, and it gives us, in this case, 101 other articles that it thinks we will like if we liked that article. Right? So my analogy for this is sort of like Pandora, right? You have like a favorite song, you love it. So you type it into Pandora and then Pandora uses its magical algorithm and says, here's an entire station of songs that if you like that song, you'll probably like these. And so in this case, if that article was relevant, hopefully maybe these articles will be relevant. And it cuts down on search time and helps you find different kinds of articles that should be super helpful. And I would argue that using this tool, the related article search in Google Scholar, is going to save you more time than almost anything else in writing that lit review. All you need to do is find 1, 2, 3 really key articles that you're building your main lit review off of. Then use related, type it into here, find it in Google Scholar, use the related articles tab, and you're going to quickly get enough citations, enough resources that you need to complete your assigned lit review. Now, after that, there are a few other tools. You see that there's all versions and the number changes. And that simply means that Google Scholar has found more than one version of this same thing on the internet. And if you click it, here's all 12 of those versions, right? So in this case, one of them is an HTML, which means it's going to be more like a website. If and when it ever opens. Here we go, a website. But here's the same thing as a PDF. You click that, and it's a PDF document, but it's the same thing. Here's a citation. All citation means is that this version, it can't actually find a digital copy of. That's why this is black and not blue like these. You can't click through to it. It knows it exists because other things have referenced it, but it can't seem to find a digital copy. And in some instances, you'll also see these, there's little arrows. So here they are. Here's a case. And that just means there's more things available. And in this case, it's the library search, which again, I'll talk about in a later video. So that's most of the stuff you need to understand what goes on underneath each of these resources. Let's go back to our original search. And I also want to just quickly point out that I'll highlight Create Alert later, but these tools here. So if you want to include citations, which I just explained to you, it's stuff there's no digital option available, keep that clicked. If you don't want those, just deselect it. Patents, typically that's not relevant to us, so I don't need that. You can sort by relevance or by date. Relevance, though, I find is usually much more helpful, especially because you can set the date range. So if everything you're finding is a little too old and you want more recent stuff, here's 2005. Sometimes, yeah, here's 1993. Click this. Now it's only, in the last 4 years. Or you can set your own range. Let's say 2010 to 2015. And there you go. I can't stress enough the power and utility of related articles. So make good use of that.